Well, following news from this morning into CBS Sports HQ, where Paramount is now the exclusive home for UFC in the United States. Beginning next year, all UFC numbered events and fight nights will stream live on Paramount Plus with select marquee fights simulcasting on CBS. That includes over 40 events in 2026 as part of the 7-year media rights agreement. As part of the deal, UFC will be moving away from pre-existing pay-per-view models, but take a look at it. These are some things to take note from this deal breaking this morning. I mentioned the 7 years begins in 2026. Paramount to exclusively air 13 marquee number events, 30 fight nights, and select marquee fights to simulcast on CBS. All events included on Paramount Plus. Get this, subscription at no extra cost. That is the big deal. And speaking of big deals, the man in charge of everything, Dana White, tweeting about this agreement earlier this morning and maybe making some fans very, very happy, saying in part, this historic deal with Paramount and CBS is incredible for UFC fans and our athletes. For the first time ever, fans in the U.S. will have access to all UFC content without pay-per-view models, making it more affordable and accessible to view the greatest fights on a massive platform. This deal puts UFC amongst the biggest sports in the world. The exposure provided by Paramount and CBS networks under the new structure is a huge win for our athletes and anyone who watches and loves this part. So, of course, that is the biggest man when it comes to combat. Maybe the number 2 man, our guy Brian Campbell, tapping in with us on this news. And BC, I'm just going to shoot it to you straight here. Your thoughts on the UFC joining Paramount Plus and also CBS Family in 2026.
I don't know about you, Brandon, but I know what I'm going to be doing for about 43 of the next 52 weeks in 2026, and that's watching UFC content on Paramount Plus. Look, this is a massive deal for the sport of mixed martial arts, obviously for UFC and their parent company, TKO, but most importantly, and you did allude to it, the fans. Look, when UFC 1 launched all the way back in 1993, it was on pay-per-view. That model has sustained for 3+ decades, but we are in a period in 2025 where pay-per-view just doesn't have the strength that it once did. Illegal streaming, and just the fact that, look, you put something on pay-per-view, you're taking it away from the mainstream and the casual viewers. If you're a fan of the UFC, you're now getting what can only be considered a major financial discount to have these big events at your fingertips on Paramount Plus, and then, like you mentioned, also simulcasted at times on big CBS. A very big deal for the exposure of the sport and for the fan base that supports it so well.
So, of course, getting rid of that paywall, that is a big plus for fans. Ultimately, for you, BC, we always bend your ear when it comes to some of those big fights. If you are looking ahead, what are some of those big events you're looking for in the future?
Well, you already know that Dana White and President Donald Trump have teased the idea July 4th of next year for a big-time mixed martial arts UFC event on the White House lawn. That certainly could be a must-see TV type of affair. But if we're looking for super fights, look, John Jones, the former 2-division champion, retired recently. Some thought he was ducking current heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall. Now we're seeing John Jones back in the testing pool, and the idea of the greatest fighter of all time fighting a guy in Aspinall who could be the future at heavyweight is a big deal. You want pound-for-pound fights? How about number 1 Islam Makhachev, who will be fighting for the welterweight title soon, going up against number 2 pound-for-pound Ilia Topuria, the former featherweight champion who just won the vacant lightweight title after Makhachev moved up. And maybe sometimes we say, hey, American MMA isn't as strong as it used to be. Well, we do have an American champion in Kayla Harrison at women's bantamweight. But guess who's also coming out of retirement? The greatest of all time on the female side, Amanda Nunes. That's a fight that has to be made next. And if we get those 3 fights in 2026, White House lawn or not, you're talking about marquee, must-see events that extend much further past regular hardcore MMA fans.
Household names coming to Paramount Plus and CBS in terms of UFC. But of course, BC, there may be some people out there that have never heard of Dana White. And your way of describing him, maybe in 20 words or less, who is Dana White?
I mean, he's a maverick. Look, he has talked forever since the last TV deal for the UFC was signed that in this one, he's going to get $1 billion per year for the UFC. He got that. He's aggressive. He goes after it. He's a fight fan at the core. And you could say one of the greatest promoters in the history of combat sports. Is a big day for him, as it is for the UFC.
In terms of deals and something like this, of the statute of making it allowed in U.S., your thoughts on, where does this rank for you in the historic of UFC and others out there that have trying to climb the ladder of making it available in the U.S.?
This is huge. It's huge financially. It's record-breaking on so many levels, especially if you compare it to the recent UFC deals of the past 15 years that have led up to this. But it's really about exposure. You're going to put huge marquee events simulcasted on CBS. You're going to take the fights off of that old and dead pay-per-view model that really hurts the fans the most. You want to talk about a time and place when this sport has an opportunity to get elevated even more. Look, it was a long time ago that Dana White of the UFC said one day mixed martial arts will be one of those four big core sports in terms of professional sports on the full global landscape. UFC feels like it's already on the verge or already right there. This deal only pushes it forward. Landmark, historic, and huge. And I believe you're going to be seeing a lot of UFC on CBS Sports HQ moving forward.
BC, before I let you go, you got to give me three fights you want to see, three dream fights that you have in your mind right now.
I mean, I certainly talked about some big matchups we could see next year. If you're a big Conor McGregor fan, despite his missteps outside the cage, he is back in the UFC testing pool. Could we see him against Nate Diaz in a trilogy of one of the sport's most intense and incredible rivalries? Possibly. We also have hot fire going on in the welterweight and middleweight divisions. A big UFC 319 card this weekend is going to find out who's the champion, Dricus du Plessis or Khamzat Chimaev. Either way, they're going to advance on to more killers in the lineup behind them. Could we get Conor back, John Jones back, Amanda Nunes back over the next year? So many big fights I want to see get made. No bigger for me as a fan than Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria, because it's very rare that you can get the pound for pound number one versus number two in the sport in the same division at the same time. If UFC can come through with those in a big way next year, this sport's only going to continue to rise.
It only sounds like to me that BC is trying to get on the road. That's what it seems like. It's just only the right thing to do with all this in 2026, right?
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, simple as that. Brian Campbell, as always, breaking it to us straight about UFC, of course, 2026 to Paramount Plus and CBS. Let's look at those details again. It's a 7-year media rights deal between the two sides. Paramount Plus, of course, exclusively will air 13 marquee number events and 30 fight nights. Select marquee fights is simulcast on CBS. And don't forget, all events included with Paramount Plus, no extra cost. That is a win for the fans and new fans and, of course, us as well at Paramount Plus.